So for this time out, I wanted to talk a little bit about four guards named Washington. And we know that name Washington is a very popular name. Obviously, our first president was named George Washington, and we had two historical African-American figures, Booker T. Washington and George Washington Carver. But what's interesting about the four guards named Washington and why they're so dear to my heart is because they're all point guards. And all my life, I've been a point guard. And they're all point guards from Brooklyn. All my life, I've been a point guard from Brooklyn. But also, what's interesting is that those four guards named Washington played in the same era that I played. Now, I'm going to talk about the first one because he was my backcourt partner in college, but he also was a phenomenal player. His name is Kelly Magic Washington. Kelly started out with Brooklyn, USA. Kelly, at a very young age, started being coached by Lloyd McCrory and Lester Roberts and those guys down at Brooklyn, USA. And at Brooklyn, USA, Kelly was killing it. He was on a bomb squad, pretty much considered like the top little guys in the country.
Gotta cut that baseline. They ain't playing that, because once you cut that baseline, you did your job. When they spin, the other one don't get that steal, he's coming out.
Then Kelly went on to high school, and he went to Boys and Girls High School, which is known for stars like Connie Hawkins, Lenny Wilkins, and many others. But Kelly really wasn't the best student.
I was a guy, I went to Boys and Girls High School. I probably would have been a starter as a freshman, but I had too much street in me, so I wasn't going to class. And then when I go to class and I'm late, Mickens is looking in my class and I'm coming late. Now I missed the whole class because you're looking for me already, so I used to go the other way. And it was like that all of my life.
But Kelly got a great opportunity by a mutual friend of ours. His name is Steve Magic Bird. And Steve Magic Bird referred him to Rockland Community College, where him and I teamed up in the backcourt. I was a sophomore, Kelly was a freshman. I just felt like I had to give Kelly some of the discipline so he could be an organized ball playing with coaches and teammates. But Kelly did his thing. Real talk, when he became eligible, there was never a beef with him. Like, you know, I was the starting point guard, I was doing everything. When Kel came, we shared the point guard.
Exactly.
Me and him just shared because he's a better scorer than me. He then came home and became notorious in all the playground tournaments. Nero, Sonaho, Kingston. Kelly was good for 30, 40, easy. And also for his size, only being about 6 feet, he was very explosive. He can get to the rim without a problem. Kelly is one of the first of the four guards named Washington. And then we talk about his teammate from when he was a kid at Brooklyn, USA, Eugene Beetle Washington. A lot of people thought Kelly and Beetle were related, but they're not related. They're just close friends because they played together since they were 9 and 10 years old. Beetle wound up taking a little bit different path. He was fortunate enough his freshman year in high school, Alexander Hamilton, to play varsity and start. And ultimately, by his senior year, Beetle won a city championship, 1981. Beetle won that championship with a teammate named Ice Reynolds. But the great thing about Beetle's championship was Beetle also was all PSAL first team, and he was an all-state player. Beetle, known for his ball handling, very high dribble, can get in and out, break any press, stop and pop game, athletic. Ultimately, Beetle leaves Alexander Hamilton, and he goes to play for the University of New Orleans. But the third guard named Washington I want to talk about is a brother named Larry Washington. He is from Brownsville, Brooklyn.
Peace. My name is Larry G. Washington from Brooklyn, New York.
Down in Brownsville, Brooklyn, he played for Gil Reynolds, one of the legendary coaches, community coaches that we had, Vanguard Oilers. Larry Washington game was crazy. He was a star at Canarsie. He was an all-PSAL first team player. He also got a scholarship to Texas Tech, ultimately transferring from there down to St. John's University. He was good for 30, 40 in high school. And he followed a lot of legendary guards from Canarsie. I mean, they had Jeff Houston, World Be Free, and Larry just kept, the tradition of great guards coming out of Canarsie. Larry didn't play in the pro-am circuits after he finished his career. Larry went on to work for corrections, had a long-standing career for New York City Corrections. The fourth guard named Washington probably received the most success, and that is Dwayne the Pearl Washington.
Boys and Girls High School in Brooklyn, a 6'2" junior wearing number 31, Dwayne Washington.
What he was, what Jay-Z was for Brooklyn. He was that for Brooklyn then. He was Jay-Z. I never forget, I was playing on the Empire State Games and we coming from a practice. And we're walking down the streets of Brooklyn and we hear this huge crash, Ernie. What is that crash? It was two cab drivers crashed because they saw Pearl and I walking and they running up to Pearl to get an autograph. So we're in high school now. We're not in college. We're not in the NBA. Pearl Washington was Jay-Z today for Brooklyn. He was the guy that everyone knew from 17 years old.
Pearl played a lot of his AAU ball or travel ball with Gauchos, which is out of the Bronx. Pearl in high school started off at Norma Thomas, freshman year. He then transferred to Boys and Girls High to play for Paul Brown after Frank Mickens had retired. Pearl comes to Boys and Girls High and he starts to go to work. Pearl's senior year, he is first team All-America in the country. Pearl's McDonald's All-American. He chooses Syracuse University. Before Syracuse, they were pretty good. They weren't great, but when Pearl came there, the fanfare went through the roof. Pearl tore the Big East up. Georgetown had supposedly the best defensive guard in the country, Gene Smith. Pearl ate him alive, and every time he shook him, shaked him, baked him, laughed, smiled, looked at John Thompson, and John Thompson was not feeling him at all. Pearl put Syracuse on the map as far as we're concerned. After that, Pearl got drafted. I think after his junior year, he wound up going to the Brooklyn Nets, which is back then the New Jersey Nets. Pearl eventually gets traded over to the Miami Heat, which was, I believe, an expansion team at the time. He goes there, and then before you know it, Pearl's out of the league.
I think the one thing that honestly that held him back as being a great pro was that he was too good too early, because it came too easy too early, and sometimes it's hard to work hard when you sleep in silk robes. And for me, he was a man amongst boys.
From what I heard, he was one of the greatest guards ever to come out of New York.
Unfortunately, Pearl passed away at a very young age in his early 50s. Pearl will be remembered as an icon, as a legend. We all celebrate Pearl's life continually. Everybody in the hood and in the community celebrates Pearl's life. Very respected by the entire country. If you haven't had a chance, you should go check him out. It's important that we understand the name Washington in Brooklyn during the era of 1975 to 1985. 4 guards named Washington.